What's up?
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Okay to start?
And if you'll please rise, we'll say the pledge together.
Oh, Todd's.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
I will.
1 second. When you're ready.
Okay. All right. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel? Present. Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes. Thank you. And we will open the floor for nominations for president.
I would nominate Dr. Bennett.
And I would second.
Any further discussion? Or Okay, I would go ahead and call the roll then.
Okay. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel? Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
And I'll abstain. Thank you. I'll do my best to serve you.
You always do a great job.
And now we'll open the floor for nominations for vice president. And
Nominate Mrs. Getzmann.
I'll second that.
thank you. And if you will call the roll, please.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Abstain, sorry.
Dr. Bennett?
And I'll say yes. And motion carried.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and we
I need to administer the
have
oath
to
of
write
office
the oath
to
of office.
the two of you, if you will please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will perform faithfully the duties as President and Vice President of the Board of Education of the Mount Vernon City School District, Knox County, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? The answer is I do.
I do.
Thank you. And I need you each to sign these before we leave, please.
Thank you.
Okay, we have committee appointments, and there is an attachment for you to look at. And in talking with Mr. Thompson and Mrs. Fiesel, I would recommend a switch from.
We've already made those.
Oh, you've already done that. Oh, okay.
Terry made those changes.
So they were currently what was here. This is what the proposed is.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you. Made it easy. Okay, were there any comments or questions, or did we get it right? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are no, we need to vote on this?
Yes, please.
Okay. I would entertain a motion then to approve the committee appointments.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and if there's no discussion, you may call the roll.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, and we have a lot of resolutions. These are the standard ones that we approve every year that give our superintendent and treasurer the ability to function, and us as well. So if you have any questions about those after we have a motion, we can certainly discuss them. But I would entertain a motion to approve all of those.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Now, are there any questions about any resolutions? Okay, you may call the roll.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann? Yes. Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. That was a lot to take care of in a short time. Legislative liaison, and Ms. Regola-Dye, would you?
Yes, I'll be happy to, unless someone else would like to take over that duty. I'd be happy to relinquish it, but
You do a mighty fine job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And I would be happy to do student achievement again. And OSBA delegate, do we have someone who's interested in doing that?
Sounds great. Let's hurry up and vote.
We need OSBA delegate.
I'll do it.
Okay. And we need an alternate.
I'll do the alternate.
Okay. So we have legislative liaison, Ms. Regula Dye, student achievement liaison, Margie Bennett, and OSBA delegate, Ms. Regula Dye, and alternate, Mrs. Getzman. Okay? And if you'll call the roll,
We need a,
oh, we don't have a motion. I'll make the motion if someone will second it.
I'll second that. Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Okay. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn unless there's anything else.
So moved.
Thank you. And second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And if you'll call the roll.
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried, and we are adjourning. I think it's called sine die, which means we aren't leaving. So we'll go right in then to our regular meeting. And if you will call the roll again, I know none of us have left, but officially we need to do that.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman? Yes. Dr. Bennett?
Yes, okay, thank you. And I don't know that we need to do the pledge again.
I don't think so.
No, we've pledged. And we have set of minutes from December 10th that need approval. I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any corrections? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman? Yes. Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone this evening. Nice to see all of you. And I hope everyone's had a safe and restful vacation. It's hard to believe we're back already, but I did today, to get back in the swing of things, took the opportunity to look at all the school websites, which was really interesting. And it reminded me of all the neat things that we're doing. I think that's the way that schools put out their best. And that was exciting to see all the things that they're doing. And the Twitter feeds. I had to sign up for Twin Oaks in order to see theirs. But I also, seeing all the children in the pictures, that reminds us of, what we're here for. So I think it's a good practice for us occasionally, just get on the website and look at all those pictures and visit our schools. I also want to thank our bus drivers for this kind of weather. They're, out and about in this cold and taking care of our kids, so I think that's really special. I'll just ask Mr. Thompson, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Likewise, welcome. And I guess when I was reviewing the minutes and looking at those committees, it kind of served as a reminder to me is that we come in here and we kind of go through a standard routine, but we step back and look at those committees. Technically, there's a lot of stuff that we have in front of us this upcoming year to look at. And so I'm actually excited about, even though it's kind of daunting, but there's a lot of opportunities for our district in this upcoming year. I'm pretty excited about what we can accomplish.
Thank you for being here this evening, especially when it's a little chilly and snowy again. This is what Ohio is. I guess it's supposed to rain and then possibly some ice later in the week, so we'll cross our fingers that we won't have to cancel school, but if we do, as a former teacher, I understand the jubilation that the children have. Echoing what Mr. Thompson says about what is upcoming, it's also a matter of thanking all of you for putting the trust in us, and our treasurer and our superintendent, and all of you and the staff put trust in us to look out for you and for the children, and we appreciate that very much, so thank you.
I just want to say welcome to all of you. It's nice to be back to my home school. It was exciting. A week ago, the high school recognized 2 former coaches, and it was just overwhelming and daunting to see all of the alumni that came back to the high school for the event, and all of their comments, their positive comments of the changes and the appearance of the high school and how nice it looked. And it was just fun watching everybody reminisce as they walked in the gymnasium and recognized Coach Moore and Coach Mayer. And it just kind of humbled me to think of what responsibility we have as a Board of Education and as educators, that they have made such an impact that so many wanted to come back and recognize. And I think teachers need to understand and continue to understand that even through those hard times, what an impact they make on children every day. And it's those ones that we think sometimes we're just not getting through. We may not be educationally getting through to them, but we are setting such a high tone of standard for them. And it makes a huge difference in who they are. And to that I say thank you to the teachers that are here, and to thank you to Pam and to Judy and to Bill for all that you do to make sure that we make an impact on every child. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank the board members too. Finished one good year, so heading into another one. So thank you. And with that, we'll turn it over then to commendations and communications.
Well, I too would like to welcome you. I'm a little bit hoarse. I've been that way for about a week and a few days. Finally went to see the doctor, so I'm not contagious, but hopefully on the upswing here as we go. We do have some reports of public participation, and we're at a beautiful school here that has had some wonderful accolades this year, and I know some of that will be part of this conversation. And we realize as a board, and I realize as a superintendent, it's there's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of people that are involved and need to be thanked. And behind the scenes persons are those kind of folks as well. So we generally like to recognize a behind the scenes person at every board meeting. And being as though we're out here at Twin Oak today, I think I'll turn it over to Suzanne Miller, who will recognize our behind the scenes person for Twin Oak. And she's asked me to put up a little slide here, and so I guess that will tell the tale itself.
I want to welcome everybody to Twin Oak, and I do appreciate your being here. This is Tiffany Miller, third grade teacher, and this is Loie Morris, our absolutely wonderful volunteer. And she has been volunteering for us for about 3 years. She also works remotely with a company in Chicago, an educational company in Chicago. So she squeezes us in every Tuesday morning and any other time that we can get her. So she has done so much for us in the last 3 years. This screen, our projector, Loie came to me and you started trying to get grants. Tiffany started writing grants. So this is really kind of a Tiffany and Loie, mother and daughter. And they started, and so she came to me and she got a grant from her company, and it was a matching grant that our PTO put together for us, and so we ended up with a projector as well as this wonderful screen. That's just the beginning of all the things that she has done. She continues to, I had teachers write, she helps set up classrooms, she researches grants, she writes grants. She comes to me and says, what about this? In her research, and she's created bulletin boards, attended field trips, made endless copies, laminated posters, cut, pasted, paperclip, hot glued, sorted supplies, repaired books. She's read to students, she's helped give assessments, returned books to our book room, planned and created activities for parties, created Halloween costumes or harvest parties, and donated books and supplies. If we ask, Loie will come, she'll create it, she'll build it, and she'll always say yes. I want to turn over, I asked to put this picture up because this is something that she did last year, and I asked if Tiffany could explain it to all of you.
Sure.
Okay, I'll move over here.
third grade, as you all know, does the walking field trip around the community, and we stopped at Paragraphs, which was wonderful to talk about economics and how that fits into our community. And while we were there, the kids were asked to go and find a book that they would like to add to our classroom. What book would they enjoy? And so that people that were at Paragraphs wrote down the title of the book. And at the end of the time that we were there, we said, well, what do you think if you took these books home and you actually got to keep the book that you selected? And so after that, it took a while for all the books to come in. Of course, they all cheered and went wild about it. But they took it home, and we brought the books back, and then my mom put a sticker in each one of the books so that every kid would know that this book was given to them in honor of someone who had passed away that was connected to our Twin Oak family in some sort of way, or with our family. So those people would be remembered. And last year we had a staff member whose son passed away and whose name was in that book. And so that name can be remembered and that person can be remembered. And my mom made sure that that happened for all the kids.
She also paid for every one of these books, which was very impressive. And these were the students, the third graders, who are now fourth graders, who got to benefit for having their own book. Not every student can go to a bookstore. I know when my children were growing up, this was the highlight. We always would go to a bookstore and you could buy a book. Not all our kids at Twin Oak can do that. So this was a really amazing opportunity and for our kids, and we really want to thank you for that, for all the things you've done for us. So.
On behalf of the Board of Education, it takes extraordinary people to make an extraordinary building, of which Twin Oak is. Just a really small token of our appreciation for all you do and raising a wonderful daughter and the whole 9 yards. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
So this is Tiffany Miller, third grade teacher, Mandy Peterson, and this year we have Chelsea Twardler. And this one is very nervous because you are all the most important people in the district. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Let's see. All right, so we're just going to talk with you a little bit about the economics unit that we do in third grade, and kind of as time how that has progressed. And we have created the Twin Oak Foundation, and so we're going to talk about that. Leah is one of our Twin Oak Foundation members. She's a 5th grader that is a part of our Twin Oak Foundation, and she is going to tell you our mission statement. It's right up there. And what she thinks about this foundation so far.
Our mission statement is for the Twin Oak Foundation to grant the wishes of students and meets the needs they see in their community.
And what have you thought about being on we've only had a couple meetings because it's getting going, but what do you think about being on the Twin Oak Foundation so far, Leah?
I feel that it is very exciting to see maybe what students could come up with to get different grants.
I think so too. And Leah was also, we were going to talk about our holiday shop, and Leah was also a member of our holiday shop. Leah, can you remember, you told me earlier today, the items that we made. Do you remember what your favorite item was?
I think it would be making those pre-ordered keychains.
Yes, very good. You can stand up here if you want with us. Okay. Okay, so the Twin Oak, we started years ago, back in 2014. Twin Oak always holds a holiday shop where people from the community make handmade items and they sell them at tables so that students can come and buy items. And third grade, some of our social studies content standards are economics, so producers, consumers, goods and services, and budgeting. And so we started having our own table at the holiday shop. Thought, hey, we can do that. We handmade items in the classroom, and then the children took turns manning the booth at the holiday shop. They sold the items to other students at the school, and then we used the profits to have a party. So we would budget for our party. You know, which cups should we buy? Should we buy the Walmart cup? Should we buy these solo cups for our parties? So talking about those things, making a budget. So the first year we did it, they had a budget and we had a pizza party. The next year was Sue's favorite. We rented a bounce house. Never again, she said, never again. Nobody would go there, it was fine. But we rented a bounce house. We had a great time. The year after that, the students wanted to go on a field trip. So the profits that they raised from the holiday shop paid for busing and for most of their way into the works. So things like that have happened. And so as that time has gone, we've kind of gone on from there. Here's some pictures. Okay.
You can skip past that to the next picture.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
So comes the 2017-18 year. So at the end of the holiday shop, we plan our walking field trip in the spring. And you saw the picture of the kids reading their books that they got from the walking field trip. But one of the stops that we had on the field trip that we purposely planned, because we had been talking about what we wanted to do with the money, was to go to Riverside Park that had the Community Foundation, the Knox Mount Vernon Community Foundation paid for a lot of the items that were there at the park. And so we invited Mr. Baroni to come and speak to the kids about the foundation and how did it start. And he had a picture, which is not in this picture, but he had a picture of the founder of the foundation and what they did to do that. And so we too wanted to do the same thing with our Twin Oaks students. There's a picture of them and all of their signatures of the founding members of our Twin Oak Foundation. And so he was explaining that to the kids, and they kept asking a lot of questions, and he kept saying a lot of millions of dollars, and they're like, ooh, we have a long way to go on that. So there they are, our founding members. And so we set aside the money for that, and we gave the money to the PTO to hold for us so that we can then spend our profits through whenever we give out our grants. And it was kind of interesting to see how Mount Vernon adopted Second Step and how that influenced our students and their decision-making to, instead of keeping it for ourselves, to giving away. And they had lots of ideas of where they wanted to give it away to, and that kind of was what pushed it into the foundation, because one class wanted to save some kind of endangered animals, and I think my class wanted to buy some sort of sports ball for the playground. And so all those little different ideas kind of led to, well, what if we put it all together and we could help lots of people on how we choose to do that. And so then this fall, with the new class that was here, we had Mr. Baroni come back again to speak to the students about the foundation. What is this going to be? What can you do with it? He brought, it was so great, like all these pamphlets about the community foundation. He explained the difference between Ariel Foundation and Community Foundation, and then what they are together down at Ariel Foundation Park, that type of thing. So the kids were really excited to do that. We had elected who our foundation council members would be, and that brings us to where we are currently, because we just had our holiday shop.
So one of those ways that the students are able to contribute their ideas to our foundation and to raise money is through the holiday shop, which is done every December. And with this, the students select items that they want to make and contribute. And we looked this year at past sales to see what items sold well, what items should we maybe stray away from making. Some of the items you'll see in following pictures were slime. That was a huge hit. We made reindeer hot chocolate mixes, which was very popular in years past, so they chose to continue to make that, as well as keychains. We have decided, and through positive things, negative things in the past, to make pre-order sale forms to make the keychains, so the students were able to create that, send out the form, and we collected it so that they could make it in advance to the holiday shop. That way the students could come and pick up their keychains that they had designed. Some other items we made were the decorative signs, and we made stress balls, we made some scented room spray, and it was great to involve families as well as show the community members that were here all of those great ideas. So this is the big long table that we had everything set out on. You'll notice some of those wreaths were homemade. The students decide to make those at home, and they brought some items to sell. We've got the stress balls, the scented spray slime, and those signs. We've got some, part of the table was stationed so that you could make keychains if you did not do the pre-order. So that continued to be a big hit through the day. And the participation of the students was great.
So that was kind of our focus, was that switch from when we first started this holiday shop and we would use all of our money just for ourselves, for our own budget. And then we decided, hey, what if we can make this bigger? We can help Twin Oak with this. And so we made the most. We made $620 profit this year. So it was great. Even, so some parents donated items, so it's really helpful because they don't have to, but if, other people, if we spend some money, they pay it back. We learn about all of those things. So this year, kind of in place of our student council, we were trying to think about what could we do to kind of, we had this student council void. We didn't really have anything going on. And we just kind of decided to kind of bring all of these things together. We had our walking field trip that we do. We have this holiday shop that we do. We kind of bridged those together and created the Twin Oak Foundation. And then we created this council of students that have gone through third grade. They sit and meet about twice a month. And right now we're still in the planning stages. So this year we have created our mission statement. We looked at other companies' mission statements. And we really like the Make-A-Wish Foundation is kind of what we borrowed from. We used that one as inspiration. We were writing our mission statement. Today we met and they made an application for a grant. Oh, well, sorry about that. But they made an application for, what students will fill out. And we try to keep telling the kids, like, this is, if teachers want something, if parents want something, or if teachers or the principal want something from school, they go to the PTO. But if kids see a need, if they think, oh, our classroom really needs more Legos, or our classroom really would like this, they don't really have a place that they can go, and that is what the Twin Oak Foundation will be. We will have grants. So this year we have $450 to give away, because that's how much they raised last year. So we will do a $300 grant, a $100 grant, and a $50 grant. And so we'll have a time when we collect applications, and then the students, so there's 3 third graders, 3 fourth graders, and 1 stellar 5th grader. They will review the applications and decide who gets the grants. And so now we're working kind of on our criteria on how they will decide who gets the grants. But, it's just kind of moving that all into our, even like with our holiday shop and all of the things that we do, it crosses over into every curriculum area that we do, from supply and demand, the evaluating of pricing and items. I mean, it's so easy to teach, scarcity of resources and supply and demand with some of these things. We graph the sale of items through time, and students have created the forms, looking at the data and then evaluating how we should change things is a huge part of that. Here's all of the stuff that we did last year. How are we going to make this different for next year? And so it's been really great to see how much it's grown from year to year. And so we did, just because we're great, put all of our standards up here that we do, cover through doing all these. You don't have to read it. But plus, not only, the speaking and listening and all of those things too that are covered in this unit. But yeah, so our next holiday shop, you can come along, but yeah, that's it. Oh, and we do, just to make sure, PTO, if we didn't make that clear, PTO, we donate our money to PTO, and then PTO holds our funds. I know that can be tricky, but PTO holds our money, and then so when we request it, then they will purchase it and then give it to the classroom. So, but yeah, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that presentation. I would also say that, we do have a Yellow Jacket Club grant. It sounds like this group could even qualify for that, if you want to take a look at that. There have been a couple years here where we have not funded out all of those grants because of applications. So it's nice that you're, kind of exemplifying this part about giving. I will say that I got my granddaughter, who's a Twin Oaks student, was so excited to share with me this little hairy ball. It was Ohio State colors, but it was a hairy ball, and I finally saw 2 eyeballs, and it's sitting on my desk in my office today because she was just so excited at this holiday extravaganza. So, thank you.
Okay, we have some monthly reports, and I think Halsey just came in, just in the nick of time. Perfect.
I went up to the upper entrance, so.
Oh.
All right, over here. So things are going well at the high school. Yesterday was Sunday. Saturday we had a wrestling tournament. It was our senior night. I believe a few of the boys played decent. And I know that they also had a match, whatever you would call it, on Saturday as well, and we had some students there as well. We're taking a spirit bus to Lexington. The game this Friday, which is very exciting. They're kind of our rivals, so it should be a good game. It's also their Fill the Floor, so if any of you are going to be in attendance to that game, bring a stuffed animal. I think they're asking specifically for teddy bears, but I'm sure whatever would work for them. And it's also their military game. So if any of you are going to the game, a little heads up for that. There's also a solo and ensemble concert this Wednesday at the high school at 6:30. And then as for this week, that's about it that's going on. We're still in basketball season, so every Friday, Saturday, there'll be a boys game, girls game. And the next bowling match, I have it written down here, if I can find it, is at Worcester, but that's not until January 26th. So if any of you are avid bowlers or bowler watchers, that will be at Worcester. So it's a little bit of a drive, it's at 9 a.m., but you want to go support our bowling team and go there. And that's about it for high school. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Nesbitt, did you have anything you wanted to share? Okay, and I don't see Mike, okay.
I don't see any public participation.
So, board items, there are none. Did you have any additions or?
No additions or deletions?
And superintendent's report.
Under superintendent's report, I have some items of information to share. January is always OSBA's School Board Recognition Month. And so we always like to take just a second to step back and say a special thank you to our board members who are pretty darn special and who always have the, really just always have their pulse on what's going on and what's best for kids. And that's the way in which they help Judy and I lead. And so we appreciate that greatly. We really, really do. And school board members don't do this out of a title. They don't do it out of certainly money. So they do it out of service. And that's greatly appreciated. The new certificates this year are pretty colorful. And we have a colorful group. So you are kind of an all-star team, right? And so it's going to say this certificate of appreciation is presented, and I have one for each one of you, of Mount Vernon City Schools, and sincere appreciation for exemplary leadership and service to public schools. School Board Recognition Month, January 2019. And so we're excited to be able to share with each one of you one of those awards.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you'd give our school board a hand, they really do a great job. This would leave you in here now. Yep, there you go. I will say, when I heard Halcyen's thing about the bowling, over the break, I got a chance to go over and watch our bowlers compete against our administrators. They had a bowling administrators. Of course, they had the two coaches on the team who they were ringers. I mean, they're really, 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 really good. But then the administrators were not really very good. And so they went through a typical match, and I found that to be quite interesting. A typical match involves 2 full games and then what they call a baker's game. Anybody know what a baker's game here is? I had no idea, but a baker's game is every member of your team rolls 2 frames in that game. So team member 1 might roll frame 1 and frame 6, and then team member 2 rolls 2 and 7, and they do 2 of those. At the end of the time, I forget how many thousands of pins come into play in this kind of a thing. The students won by 4 pins. So it's kind of cute. Yeah.
And they loved it.
And they loved it. But they high five everybody. I mean, we have about 34 members, I believe, on the bowling team that have kind of stuck with it. 17 boys, 17 girls. Their season is long. They have 27 matches. And it's just a neat opportunity for folks to participate. I had an item for board approval under my section, but obviously I've continued to booger that one up a little bit. It was the calendar. We've done so many iterations of the calendar, I think I need to erase all of our iterations and get the final one, because every time we link one, it might be one iteration before or above. But essentially what it's going to come down to is there's a desire to start a week later than we have in the past. Instead of starting like the 13th, 14th, and 15th, we're going to start on the 20th of August. We'll still end at the end of May, where other districts will be still starting a week earlier and they want to get done before Memorial Day. So it's kind of 6 1/2 dozen another. We're going to move in the direction of starting a little bit later and then ending on May 30th, which isn't so terribly bad. Typical 2 weeks for Christmas. You've got your Thanksgiving break in there, and our spring break will be right along those lines. So we'll have the last iteration here either at a special meeting or at our February meeting, but you can kind of get a sense for where those are.
I think we're down to curriculum and the success items for today. And if some of you need to leave, I would certainly understand. It might be a good time. You're welcome to stay, but if you need to leave, you're welcome to go as well. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for everything.
The first article is about the 21st century skills with Legos. I had to chuckle when she said about not having enough Legos, because that was one of the articles was about how the students were using Legos to learn computer skills and engineering skills in the Hubbard Elementary School. The only other article that I thought really applied, the second 2 articles were on career tech. So I didn't think that really made a lot of sense for us. But what teachers can do to boost creativity was kind of interesting. And an art teacher told mainly it's taking time to allow students to be creative, and that creativity doesn't involve just totally being unstructured, but in giving students a blank canvas in an art class, but rather she said she has learned that students need some kind of structure, even if they're just told in whatever you do, you need to have 2 straight lines, 3 curved lines, a geometric shape, and an organic shape. And she said then students will just start to put all that together. It gives them something to work toward. What I found really interesting was the Student Achievement In-Depth Research Project on the back. And probably most of you have heard of the 2000 National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. They released a report on how people learn, brain, mind, experience, and school in the expanded edition. And that was in 2000, and they point out that that particular report, out of 10,000 educational reports produced by the Academy, that has been in the top 3 as far as the number of people interested in that report. And because of that, they have done a second report in 2018, which is called How People Learn Too. And some of the things that, it's 350 pages, and if you scroll down a little further, there's a place where, if you click on 3, I think it is, page 3. There's actually a link, and you can download the full report in PDF format, free of charge. Unless you want to join the Academy, then I suppose you can get a subscription to it. But I won't try to, go through all of it. But 4 of the things that are pointed out in summary is that culture plays an important and complex role in shaping how people learn, which these all make common sense, we all know that. And that learning is a dynamic process that continues across the lifespan. And then they talk about mental models, and I thought it was really interesting. Twin Oaks' presentation was an example of that mental model, where students are learning to apply these concepts in their everyday life, and they're motivated then, which is the 4th point, that how motivation is so impactful on learning. And I just thought that was a perfect example. They're learning how to graph, they're learning about finances and supply and demand, and it's all relevant to what they're interested in. So that's 4 of the things that they talked about. But it's a brilliant article. I spent probably a couple hours just reading through some of the brain science research that's current, and it's very fascinating. So if you have a chance to link that and just glance through it, I think you'll be very impressed with all the research that's going on. Some of it, the neuroscience, is beyond my comprehension in some ways, but it's still very interesting. So it's good to know that we're continuing to investigate, how kids learn and how best we can meet their needs, and how teachers can motivate. So lots of good ideas in this report. So with that, I'll go ahead to the recommended for approval.
One item here under this section for approval, it's an overnight extended student trip of our FFA Leadership Conference. You'll see that information is coming up in February. So that item for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that item. Thank you. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I noticed they're going to actually be staying overnight and sleeping in the cafeteria. Is that correct?
I think I read
In the
something
gym,
like that.
yeah.
Big old powwow.
Yeah, it sounded like, I can imagine kids would love that, but at that age. Okay, were there any questions about the application? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson? Yes. Mrs. Getzmann? Yes. Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, financial report.
Okay. I don't have any items for information at this time. We do have the financial report. If you want to look at that for me, please. You can see that we ended the month with $7 million. As you can see, that balance is dwindling a little bit as we get closer to the collections of the taxes, which taxpayers will be writing checks to the county auditor, and they will be sharing that money with us in the next month or so. So we've got $7,200,000 at the end of December. The next page, you can see that we have collected 47.6% of our revenue that we expect to collect for the year. The first 2 items are under 50% because, again, those are taxes. When the taxpayers get their bills, the first bill, which comes out in January, sometimes people pay for the whole year. So we usually collect a little bit of a bigger percentage in January. What we've collected so far came in July, so you can see that would be the remainder of what wasn't collected last year in January. The other items are right about 50%, so that's where we want to be. On the other financing sources, those are random things, refunds, donations, those kinds of things. So those vary during the year, but I think usually we get a lot more of those in the spring than we do in the fall and winter, so I'm not too concerned about that. On the expenditure side, you can see that we're pretty much where we need to be. If you look at the total expenditures, we're right a little over 50% for the year. So we keep an eye on that and make sure that that stays right about where it needs to be. If for any reason any of these go higher, we check on them. If we have to adjust the forecast, we can do that. But pretty confident halfway through the fiscal year already, we're right about where we need to be. And then the next one is our ever popular investment report. At the end, halfway through the year, we've already got $135,000 in interest, so very happy about that. And I believe next month we'll have the gentleman from Meter come in who can tell us a little bit about how they invest the funds for us and how that works. So that'll be very interesting too. The rest are just reports that have the balances on them. And then we have the donations, as you can see, from an anonymous donation to Dan Emmett for 67 pairs of new footwear for students. Donation from Siemens to the high school art department, 24 3-inch binders. Donation from the Foundation Park Conservancy to Columbia Elementary Music Program, $150 for singing for the lighting ceremony. From the Knox County Park people to the FCCLA and FCS, $150. And I guess so. A donation from, I don't know if it's books or a donation to the lab, I guess, for them to use for their books. And then from Mary Grumman to the Dan Emmett Library, 8 books. And from Shamrock Plastics to the Industrial Tech and VOAG departments, colored plexiglass valued at over $500. And that's the financial report.
Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve those finance items.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Gessman. And we certainly appreciate all of these donations, and we do write them thank you letters and express our appreciation. So, okay, are there any questions on the financial report? Or okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Gulladye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, Mr. Gulladye, would you like to
Thank
give your
you.
legislative liaison report?
Thank you. Just a few things. The new Speaker of the House is Representative Larry Householder. The President of the Ohio Senate was reelected, Senator Larry Elpoff. There were several more laws that were signed by outgoing Governor John Kasich. HB 58 requires the Ohio Department of Education to include supplemental instructional materials, on cursive writing. HB 66 requires public schools within 2 hours of the start of the day to notify the parent if a student fails to arrive and is not excused from attendance. HB 291 allows school districts to purchase an employee dishonesty and faithful performance of duty policy instead of individual surety bonds for those who are otherwise required to give a bond. I had to look up a little bit more of that information to make sure that I understood what it was talking about. So if you have any questions, I've written down a few things about that. HB 477 revises the civil immunity protections for instances in which mental health services are not provided or procured by school districts, schools, school board members, and employees. It also revises certification requirements for employment of paraprofessionals and eliminates non-operational and outdated education provisions. HB 491 extends the alternative high school graduation pathways. He signed that for 2019 and 2020. So that worry is off the table for parents and students. HB 502 requires certain public school employees to undergo youth suicide awareness and prevention training every 2 years. So that's just a summation of what's happened in the lame duck session. Does anyone have any questions about that one crazy thing that I mentioned about the bonds?
Well, did they just develop policies for employee dishonesty and faithful performance? I've never heard of that before.
I had not either heard of it, but I'm assuming that that had been on the books previously because, no, it has to allow the school districts now to do that. And it, I guess, responds to crime policy losses arising out of the failure of an individual to execute their duties. So it's protection, I guess. Yes, I thought it was interesting also.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, would you?
Oh, I know one other thing. I'm going to be meeting, with Representative Carfagna at the beginning of the month. So if anyone has anything that you'd like for me to relay to him, he's going to be here in Mount Vernon, and I'll be talking to him for a little while, for about an hour. So if you have anything that you'd like for me to address with him, please let me know. Thank you.
I would ask, do you know under that HB 502 what employees they're targeting?
It says 502.
That's the one on the suicide.
Oh,
Certain public.
it just says certain public school employees. I imagine it's the, our counselors, social workers,
Yeah.
et cetera. It could be our nursing staff too.
I thought it was good that they are doing that, but I wondered too who would be involved. Do you know, have you been notified yet, or?
Yeah, thankfully, and knock on wood, we haven't been as inundated as some of our surrounding districts relative to suicide and suicide prevention. And certainly hope that never really, but we can't be naive enough to think it's not here. I think it's I don't know who the specific group is, but I'll look into it. I'm sure it's gonna be counselors, social workers, administrative staff. I don't know if they'll go all the way down to teachers. That would be
I think so.
that'd be quite an undertaking to try to get them all training. But I met with several, actually local superintendents, not local, but Columbus, Hilliard, Worthington, and Owen Tangi were all at the same conference. And they spoke of that as being a much greater need for them right now. And, we have to be prepared.
Right. I think our emphasis on having students share information has been very valuable.
I agree. We brought that up, that's been a real push that our kids seem to have embraced. And so not only from an active shooter sense, but if a young person is struggling, share it with someone so we can help them.
A trusted adult. Right?
That social emotional learning piece,
I think it's making a difference
it's,
there.
it takes time, but I think it's sinking
I
in.
did just pull that up, and it says the nurse, counselor, school psychologist, administrator, or any other personnel that the board determines is appropriate for that suicide training, so.
Thanks, Judy.
Good question. Thank you.
Yep, good question.
Okay, some facilities for us.
We have a number of facility requests. The first three are free facility requests, and then we have a couple of other items. Believe it or not, it's January, but we're already talking about the Mount Vernon Baseball and Girls Softball Associations trying to get in line for some of this facility use. I found C to be interesting, our cardio drumming unit going on out at Columbia Elementary. And I had to chuckle just a little bit. Terry was sharing with me that there's some ladies from our central office who are doing big balls and bouncing and drumming and doing some things for fitness. I think that's great. I think anything you can do to get moving, the better. Under item 2, we have facility use that will be billed. The Knox County Granges generally will use the facilities throughout the year. Here they're looking at April for their big banquet. And so we certainly will charge them the minimum that's required for us to do that. And then finally, we have a resolution submitting to the electors of the Mount Vernon City School District the question of replacing and increasing existing tax levy for the purposes of general permanent improvements pursuant section 507. That resolution is listed here for you. This is our second reading of that. Is it?
Well, it's our second resolution.
Second
This is a separate
resolution
one.
for
Yeah,
that,
this is-
yeah.
This is the intent to proceed, so once this is passed, then this will go to the Board of Elections, and they'll send us back the language, we can take a look at it, and then it'll be in May.
Okay. So that document is there for your review as well. So those 3 items.
I would entertain a motion to approve those 3 items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I think for those who are present, would you like to, or do you want me to talk about the thinking on the resolution and
Sure, we can
how
tag
it's
team that if you'd
replacing
like.
the current bond that's expiring? And
Absolutely. You know, I think we articulated in that last meeting in December, our desire as the Mount Vernon Middle School, after 25 years, will be paid off. And that's an exciting time for the district. And yet realizing that for the last 25 years, taxpayers here in Mount Vernon City School District have been gracious in providing those resources and finances to have that school. What we're asking is that they just continue to pay what they've been paying to help us earmark some of those additional dollars from that point moving forward to help us with renovations, updating, even replacing in some instances some real needs in the district in the form of permanent improvements. And we're certainly hopeful that there's a willingness to do that. If that becomes the case, it would be, no increase as to what they've been paying for the past 25 years. And that certainly is how we want to make sure that we promote that kind of information. I don't know if you have anything you want to share.
No, I mean, that's basically it. It's going to be that the PI levy is currently continuing. It will be continuing if it passes with this new increase and a replacement. It'll still be continuing, so we won't have to be renewing it, and we'll be using it for, upkeep. Because of the language, the way it's written, we can use it for general permanent improvements. So it's not earmarked towards, some districts have it earmarked towards technology or just buses or whatever. We can use it for whatever, upkeep, maintenance, repairs, those kinds of things that we need, so.
as long as it's for something that would last 5 years, right?
Right. And our current permanent improvement levy does pay for technology, it pays for curriculum, it pays for transportation with buses, and it certainly updates and, keeps our facilities the way they are. And so this would just make that pot a little bit bigger so that we can continue to do those things and maybe even do a little bit more.
Okay, thank you for doing that. Any questions or comments, board members?
I think that, I believe wholeheartedly we're doing the right thing. I just know that there's those who will, just by the language, can misinterpret it to be more out of their pockets, right? So educational piece, but I also, thought, again, as I referenced about just thinking about going forward in some of the different committees and things that we have. Well, I think one of the things that we can do is on the facility side is identify some of those things that we know we want to work on. Some people know about the big gateway project and those kind of things, but within the scope of the day-to-day school, we know we have things we want to accomplish, and getting those things out in front of the public to reinforce the fact that money is going to be going for those kind of things. So it's just, I know you've been working on those kind of things, but getting them out in front of people, I'd like to think it would just reinforce the value of what we're trying to do.
I do think it's important to realize we've had an educational gateway project that's been worked on for some time. That's primarily Booster Club and private donors. That's not
Totally separate.
It's totally separate. Now, the bus garage, we may find ourselves working towards that, but this master facility conversation that we've been having, the reason we've been meeting in various buildings, I have finalized the results of our last thought exchange, and we've drilled it down to building interest levels. I know at our next special meeting, we'll have a chance to really share that, and that may then end up being somewhat of the footprint or the blueprint as to where some of these additional monies would be generated, and or if we'd ever need to look at some more of a big comprehensive plan financially moving forward.
Well, and don't forget that just 2 years ago, we had to replace 20 units, rooftop units at the school. And because the cost of that was almost the whole PI fund, we had to borrow from the general fund in order to do that, but it had to be done. So, these are the kinds of things that sort of maybe, I don't want to say they sneak up on you, but big projects like that have to be done to keep the district running and safe. Those are the kinds of things that we may not be able to earmark every single thing, but have some money aside for those kind of emergency things that we never, as we do at home. You make sure that you have some money in case the furnace breaks down or something like that, so.
And as a board, we are responsible for millions of dollars of facilities, and we don't want deferred maintenance because that becomes a big issue for a district. So we need to keep on top of and keep our facilities in good working order. So this would really help us. But.
It would. I chuckled this past week when a couple of superintendents were saying how they had the oldest buildings in their area. They were built in 1955. I thought, let me tell you about a few of ours that might have been built even. No, you're kidding. You don't have buildings that, well, we do.
Yes, we do.
And we're proud of them and we like them and, but there's a cost to doing that kind of work, so.
Okay, would you call the roll?
Piece of entering the 21st century in education for our children. And in order to do that, we have to have the funds, plain and simple. And the public trusts us to do what we think is the best for our community, not just the school, but for the whole community.
Thank you. Okay, you need to call the roll, right?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson? Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And student services? I
have nothing.
Nothing, okay. And personnel?
Under personnel, under certificated and licensed staff, no items for information. Just a couple items for your approval. We have one resignation of a middle school track coach. And then item 2, we have a number of employment from substitutes to supplemental positions to extracurricular activities. Those 2 items for your approval.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, classified.
Under the classified staff section, no items for information, but 2 items for board approval. One is the substitute employment of an aide and a secretary, and item 2 is the employment of a new bus driver and the first of a 2-year contract for 2 employees. So those 2 items for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion then to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Was there anything else that?
We have no executive session items that I have. I mean, we have made it customary this year to take a brief tour of each of our buildings. This is our newest building, and we've been here a good bit. If you still would like to just quickly take a walk, I mean, it's really pretty handy. It's 2 corridors in the central section, but
good.
Certainly something to be proud of.
Okay, but we should probably go ahead and adjourn.
Yep.
We had talked about looking at calendars for a
we did.
special meeting. Is
We
that
did.
something we want to wait since Mrs. Fiesel's not here, or something that we at least want to
We might come up with some tentative.
come up with?
Yeah, maybe I'll come up with some tentatives. I did hear from Mrs. Fiesel today. And by the way, congratulations to Mrs. Fiesel.
Right, first
as
grandchild.
First grandchild. And so she's celebrating that joy down in Savannah. I don't think she'll be coming back till sometime February 12th or after. So
She may not come back.
I was going to say.
yeah. Minimally, I mean, I really want to get a chance to share the master facility information. We need to continue forward with the Gateway project. I could see us minimally having a facility and grounds meeting. But to finalize that contract to move us forward with the Gateway project, we're still dotting all the i's and crossing the t's, and I would expect that to take place in the next couple of weeks. But we'll need a full board vote to do that next big step there. So I'll have Terry send you out some dates relative to that. That first meeting may be one that maybe Mrs. Fiesel won't be able to be a part of, but we need to have something between now and our next meeting in February, I believe. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, anything else? Okay, I would entertain a motion then to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, and do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, and would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola Dye?
Yes.
Getzmann?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bell?
We covered 2 meetings in record time.
I was going to
so
say,
thank you.
6:36.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Thank you all for coming.